Okay, I think that we are live. Oh, on the other end, it says we're still setting up. So I'll give it one more moment to make sure. So yes, hello everyone and welcome to this Friday's edition of the Finding Your Sacred Contribution interview series. I am so excited to be here with Kori and hear all about some really delicious things that are happening this summer. So thank you so much for being a part of this and for being willing to share your journey. To start with, will you just tell us a little bit about your work in the world?
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. This is really exciting. I'm so happy to be able to share about what I do. So I have a company called Wander Women, and we run empowering backpacking trips for women specifically. So it's really fun, but it's also just really relaxing and empowering and just a confident, comfortable way to get out into the wilderness. I have trips that you can sign up for just as an individual, or a lot of people sign up on their own. Some people might sign up with a sister or friend, but I also do private group trips. So if you have like a whole group of people that you want to do, whatever it is, a bachelorette party or a sober retreat or divorce party, I think we need to do more to celebrate people like this is when you need your friends around you.
Yeah.
I haven't done one of those yet, but I just think it's a good idea.
Oh my gosh, I got goosebumps when you said that. Wow. So I want to get into all of the detail of it, but before we do, how did you find yourself doing this?
Yeah, so I've always enjoyed everything outdoorsy, camping, hiking. And I also do some skiing and kayaking and things like that. But I actually started out as a biologist. And despite what you might guess, I was more of a lab biologist. Did a lot of genetic work, and then was managing a research lab for a number of years. And I love science. I definitely have a science brain and interesting work, but I was really quite a few steps removed from any impact my work was having, right? So when you're doing research, you're just like a little piece of the puzzle, and every little piece is important. But when you're working with people, especially, in this environment with Wander Women, where I get to, take people maybe they've never been before, or maybe that haven't had a chance to go backpacking since they had kids, or since college, or since they split with their ex who had all the gear. You just get to have that impact in front of you right away, as well as that, just the fun and the energy from being with people. So I had been working in biology, and I have a master's, but not a PhD. So in the sciences, that kind of put me in a position where, in order to move forward with my career, I kind of was going to move away from the research or go back for a PhD. And then when I was kind of sitting with that, I'd always had this dream of running backpacking trips for women. Just seems like there's a lot of great stuff out there for teens and girls, but I find teens, and that's great, and we need that. But I just meet so many women that don't feel confident doing these things on their own. And they're not as willing to just try something that might feel scary or dangerous without first learning a little more. Plus, I'd taken lots of friends out, friends had never been before, groups of friends that maybe were all super outdoorsy but had never been together. One of my best friends, I did her bachelorette party as a backpacking trip. And so it was like all these women that all knew her, but we didn't know each other. And it was so much fun. So mad biologist, I'm sitting with this like dream I have. I'm thinking about what my future might be in science. And then a job opportunity came up at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, running their outdoor program. So I applied for that, got that position. So I still work at Lewis and Clark, running the outdoor program there for students. Hold on, my cat is trying to get out. Like work from home thing, right? There we go. There's no handle for him.
Should be. Or maybe
yeah. So after a couple years of running the outdoor program at Lewis and Clark, I finally felt like I had the professional expertise to launch my dream of having this business. So that's what I did. And that was really the fall of 2018. So my first season, so I did some test trips in 2018, and then my first real season was 2019, and there was a pandemic, but I was still able to run trips last year, and it worked really well, just a little smaller.
Yeah. And then you have some stuff planned this year, which I want to talk about in a minute, but I'm like blown away by all of this, right? Like, because I have been backpacking once.
Mm-hmm.
I would be scared to go on my own, or even to initiate it with, some girlfriends. I feel like it would be, like this sense that we're, it's not like, oh, I've never, I don't know, driven to this part of town, I'm going to go do that for the afternoon, right? It's like, you're going to go into the mountains, we have, even though it's so amazing and we know it's so amazing, like there is also that sense of the magnificence, right? Like all the things that could happen there.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah,
right.
totally.
And I think, the unknown is scary. And in a lot of situations, you might not know what you don't know. But I think with the wilderness, people kind of do have some idea of what they don't know. Like they know that there's animals, but they don't know how to deal with that, or what they should really be worried about, or how to prevent any problems. Right? They know that the weather is a question mark, and you don't have a good weather forecast, 5 days in advance when you're packing, but they don't know necessarily, like, so what do I need to stay warm and dry and happy and safe? And so some of those unknowns, you have to know how to deal with them. And that's what I can provide. And I love to talk about. And the other unknown is, the route. Will I get lost? Is it going to be hard? And, for me, my biggest thing is that I hike pretty slow. And on these trips, my sort of core vision is that we are there to enjoy the wilderness. It is not about how fast you move through the wilderness. Like that's not why we're there, right? You're not going to enjoy it more if you're going faster. You might enjoy it more if you have more snack breaks. So that piece of like the physical challenge, I think people can be really surprised by what they can do, or even if they're not surprised, it feels good. It feels good for me every time I go out there. I know I can do it, and it still is like this awesome accomplishment to do it, right? And you can do it, for most of us that are, able-bodied and able to wear a backpack, and that you can do it, and you just go at your pace and enjoy it.
I am like even just resonating in on that word empowerment, right? In this sense, like it means, to feel power, right? And to feel like you can do something.
Yeah.
How often we like negate ourselves before we even try something, which is the opposite, And so to be able to do that in this supportive, environment where you have all of this, background and expertise. And one of the things, that I also wanted to jump into is, that you have some of the gear, right?
Yeah. Yes. So I try to make it easy, because I know I have, I think of my clients in kind of two categories, not that they're necessarily separate, but there's women that maybe have done some hiking, maybe have done some camping, but have never been backpacking. And then there's women that have been backpacking, maybe they know they love it, maybe they don't have all the gear, or even if they do, they don't have time to plan a trip, like where am I going to go, and shopping for the food and the whole thing, right? Yeah. So I try to make it as easy as possible, and a big part of that is the gear. And I try to make the gear easy, both in terms of what I provide, as well as you knowing what you need to bring. So I provide tents and all of the things we would need in the kitchen. So all the stoves and cookware, water purification system, all that stuff. And then I give you a really detailed packing list. I actually have 2 documents, which I really love, and I've gotten really, I think people really appreciate, where it tells you exactly what you need with descriptions of each, and then a whole nother document with like more tips and advice about them. So for instance, like you need long underwear, and then there's some description of what that means. Like you don't want, so you might not own fancy hiking long underwear, but you probably own some leggings.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so then it's like, if you want to buy some fancy outdoorsy long underwear, here's some options. If you don't, here's some things you probably already own. And if you're going with something you already have, here's something you want to avoid. So you don't want to have cotton, for instance. Cotton is actually really bad when you're camping because it doesn't dry out. It steals your heat from you because it like keeps the moisture next to your skin. So those kinds of little tips are all part of that. So you know exactly what to bring, and you know that if it's not on this list, you don't need it. So we don't want you carrying extra heavy stuff you don't need, right? Yeah.
Just the robustness of that is really hitting me, right? So even in this sense, what you said earlier, that with the wilderness, we do know what we don't know is,
yeah.
it's like still percolating in my head. Like, yes, that's true. I know exactly what I'm afraid of, you know, to go backpacking, but I don't know, you know, what to do about that. And I know that I have to have a lot of things to go backpacking.
But you also don't want to carry too many things.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm going to say like, okay, we're worried about the weather. Here are the layers you need to be comfortable in this environment, regardless of what weather we might expect for the environment this time of year.
Right. So, you know, so what's it like on a trip, right? So this is like
so fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. I don't have my own kids, but you know, a lot of my clients are moms, and it's really, really fun to be with a group of women where everyone, I mean, I think this sort of just happens really naturally in groups of women. Everyone chips in and is part of the team. So my trips, I call them expedition style because we're all doing, you know, helping out with the different camp chores. You know, I'll teach you how to do it if you don't know, but you know, with women, like everyone wants to pitch in, which means no one has a lot of work to do. It's so different than, you know, when you're at home trying to like take care of all the things and you have to, you know, be the one to do all of the meal situation and the cleaning and make sure people are taking care of themselves. And, you know, does, you know, everyone have sunblock on, all these things, like you don't have to worry about any of that. And then that just opens up this space to relax, to feel yourself, to, you know, develop these like inside jokes. It's amazing how quickly we have inside jokes happening in like one day on a trip, right? Because people are just, you know, having fun and relaxing. So yeah, so definitely the laughter, and that is just a huge part of it. And then the other thing that often happens is sometimes people find that space really valuable to open up about some things that can be really juicy, whether it's, you know, some family dynamic or something in their relationship or something like that, just to be in a group of women that's there to, you know, be a team basically. But sometimes having that group that doesn't know you outside of this allows people to kind of like bring them their whole selves in a way that doesn't come with all the like baggage of expectations. And that's really powerful. I enjoy that part of it a lot too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the freeingness of that, to know that you really do get to show up as your full self while you're, you know, almost like mind, body, spirit, super connected and open. And you have to be aware of yourself as you're, you know, hiking and in a new, beautiful environment.
Yeah.
So how many people are on these trips? How long are they?
Yeah. So my trips, I can have up to 8 people, which is a pretty big size group when you're, you know, in a little intimate campground. I provide single person tents or double tents. So if you sign up with a friend or sister or something, you can share a tent. But you know, you get 8 single person tents, and that's a big group. So up to 8 is the max. My trips are all in Eastern Oregon. So where we are, we're on actually the ancestral homelands of the Cayuse, Nez Perce, Umatilla, and Walla Walla peoples, which I just, you know, I like to intentionally reflect on, that we're able to have these recreational experiences because of the sacrifices forced upon the original inhabitants of the land. And it is a really spectacular land to have the privilege to be able to visit. So in this northeastern Oregon, it's about 5-hour drive from Portland, 5.5, depending on the destination. So I plan it all so that you don't have to take more days away than the trip is long. So we start after lunch on the first day and we finish around lunch on the last day. So you can drive in that same day.
Okay.
And then also, because it is 5 hours, my shortest trip is 2 nights. And then my longest trip is 6 nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, I am a mom, and I was just talking to a mom friend of mine, and who had gone away for a day, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was fine, it was good, but that you can't even really relax. And someone like takes a whole day to like decompress from that, like what you're talking about, of, being so alert and taking care of everybody else's needs. So I love that sense of like that it can be substantial enough, right?
Yeah.
That you really do get to get away and get to feel like you get this adventure, but also that there are these options, right? Of like,
yeah. And those, the short trip, it is good for, when people are busy, especially if you have young kids. But it still is long enough that the 2 nights it's great. You really do get to decompress in that amount of time. And then more is more. So this year I added a trip that's longer. And it has a number of returning clients because, once people have been, they're like, oh yeah, I should have gone longer. Longer is better. I want more.
Yeah. Oh, so what's it like to do this work, right? That makes an impact in the world, and that also, it's so evident. I feel it in my body. How it makes you.
It's good. No, I guess the way I would put it is I've never thought of myself as a workaholic. Like, I'm not a workaholic. I'm not a person that, has to do work for work's sake. I'm perfectly happy relaxing. And so in that sense, I never would have imagined starting my own business, because what could possibly be more work? But it's so different when it's something that I'm excited about and passionate about. And I don't just enjoy the work, I like believe in the value of the work too. And I do enjoy I don't just enjoy leading the trips. I love planning, right? So I love doing like the pieces to make the trip happen too. I refer to all the planning and like looking forward to a trip and like packing and all of that. I sometimes refer to that as adventure foreplay. Like, getting excited.
Right. And there's all this research, right? That it's about the journey, right?
Yeah.
That part of it, that getting excited about what is to come and how this specific group is going to come together and what jokes are going to be made or stories shared. So, and I love what you touched on, right? About this expectation that I think so many of us have, that like, if you start your own business, it's supposed to be a ton of work and super exhausting, and that isn't actually how it is necessarily,
Yeah. I mean, it is a ton of work, but it's enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, it doesn't, it gets to be this work that's inspired.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the thing that feels so good that it's not like, okay, I got to clock in and do this. It's, something that actually compels you and that you also get, financially rewarded from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you had mentioned when we were chatting right before that some people have just found you straight from Google.
Yes, it's so exciting. This is my first season where I've had clients that just Googled and found me and registered and are confirmed and paid, which feels really huge. Shout out to Malia Tibbetts with Bridgetown Marketing, who helped me with my website and my search engine optimization.
Yeah.
Without that, I'm sure that would not have happened.
Right. Well, and even that sense, that's part two of not just your marketing, being appropriate, right? And matching, what people, but that people know that they need this.
Yeah. There's such, I mean, like I said, this has been a dream of mine a long time. And I just know that it's such a like value in women's lives. But right now, I think there's a lot of pent up travel energy, a lot of, I know that I need an adventure for me. So people are ready to get back out there, which is great.
Great. Yeah. Goodness.
So,
amazing.
yeah.
So you have trips planned for this year?
Yeah, so I have 4 trips on the calendar. As I mentioned, I do still work at Lewis and Clark College running the outdoor program there too. So this is not something I'm able to do full time at this stage. So I have 1 trip each month this summer. So my first trip is in the end of June, and that trip already has 5 people on it out of 8. So only 3 spots left, which is really exciting. And then so that trip's 4 days. And then I have my longer trip at the end of July. And then I have another trip at the end of August. That's the short one. And then another one in September. And each one has its own like thing about it. Each one's different. They each go to a different spot. But also with the different seasons, like the earlier trips have a lot of wildflowers. The September trip has no bugs at all. Right? They're like all dead.
Oh. Yeah. And then they're all in this same region.
Yes. Yeah. So they're not that close to each other. One of the things that's been, a big challenge is working on public lands. There's a lot of permitting and, that I've learned a lot about. Fortunately, this side of Eastern Oregon where I like to do my own trips, and so I'm leading these trips, is a lot more like amenable to that than something on Hood, for instance. But so a main area I spend a lot of time in is the Elkhorn Mountains, which are sometimes called Oregon's Alps. It's a really beautiful area, like basically south of Pendleton. In there, it's part of the same, it's Blue Mountain Complex geologically in the state, same geologic complex as the Wallowa Mountains, if you've ever heard of those in the northeast corner. And it's a really spectacular area that I think is really underappreciated. And part of that is there's not as many routes, and the trails aren't as well known, so it makes a good fit for having a guided experience. And then I do run 1 trip in the Wallowas proper. That's the Imnaha Canyon trip. So we go up this beautiful like ice blue river. The water is glacial melt. So it has this really great color to it. And then I do a trip in Strawberry Mountain, which is more sort of a little bit further south of John Day. And on that trip, you actually have the opportunity to summit Strawberry Mountain if you want to. So it's a 9,000 foot peak, but it's just a hike to the top. So yeah, we always like have an opportunity to actually go to the top and have that like, I'm on top of a mountain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gosh. So, as you've gone this route, right, of following this calling and creating this business and, dealing with a pandemic and unexpected life happening, what do you think the biggest obstacles have been, your biggest, and then also along with that, like what have been the most pivotal things that have helped you get to where you are?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that is really important is to like focus on the thing that is your thing. So for me, my thing are these backpacking trips. And when I talk to people about, my idea, especially as I'm getting started, I have a lot of people that are very excited for me and have all kinds of, and you should also have a blog and do a podcast and have merchandise and all these things that start to like bombard and feel overwhelming and are not the thing. Yes. Right? So for me, focusing on the thing, where like, yes, some of those other pieces, hopefully I can grow to that point at some day, but that's not my core mission. And it's also not my core strength. Like blogging is not going to be where I thrive. Right. So that's been really helpful to me. And then one of the things that's really hard for me is social media, which is like a huge part of marketing now more than ever. And I'm not good at it and I don't love it. So that's always a struggle to like force content out to be like, let me tell you why it's great. Well, just come, then you'll know.
Yeah. Well, this is a recording, so this counts as social media content. Yes.
I'm doing it right now.
And so and you're so passionate about it. I'm like, I just feel like I'm breezing through these questions because I'm like giddy about the excitement of
thank you. Thank you.
All of this that you're creating and bringing to the world. And yeah, I'm super outdoorsy, love hiking, love being outside, love camping, and have felt that of like, oh yeah, there's all of these trips and all these really cool things for youth. And, and so to think of like, yeah, these women that are in need of empowerment, need of community, longing for connection, longing to spend more time outdoors and to do it, like to really get away, where there's, to have a guided experience.
Being outdoors, I feel like is only one half of the value. Well, maybe halves is the wrong way. There's the group dynamic, which is great. There's the being outdoors. And then there's the not being in the daily grind.
Yes.
Being removed from technology and expectations and responsibilities and just like, all of that.
Yeah.
The absence of that is as powerful as the presence of the wilderness.
Totally. Right. And that both are necessary, right? Create that space to appreciate the wilderness.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're talking about doing the thing, right? Like, so much of this community is about, finding your sacred contribution, doing the thing that is your thing. Because when you find that thing, that is the thing that is going to propel you forward. It's going to inspire you because you're focusing on your mission, on the thing that fills you up, not what other people say you should be doing.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And which can then spread your energy to things that don't actually, end up propelling your cause because you're like, I don't want to be blogging.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's the beauty of having my own business, is that I am able to have that focus. And it's all sort of in my, like, it's my vision. Right. And so I get to bring that into the world and not have to compromise on what that vision should be.
Absolutely. Right. And that it gets, that it is robust, right? Talking about, Native peoples whose land this is on, and that you get to speak to that and even, educate around that. And, empowering in terms of, freeing people from the logistics of doing this, as well as, this shared, what sounds like amazing experience.
Great. Join me.
Yes. I'm like, when will this happen? So it will. And to be determined.
Well, people are like, oh, which trip should I go on? And honestly, the one that fits your schedule best, because they're all great. And you can go on a different one next year. But
so how do people find you?
Yes. So my website is wanderwomenadventure.com. And then on Facebook or Instagram, it's at Wander Women Adventure. Okay. And I guess we'll put this in on the Facebook.
Yeah, so this recording will stay live in this group, or it'll stay housed in this group, I guess. And so if you put a comment in there with the link, then everyone can catch the website that way. And then, so just for clarification on timing, the first trip is the end of June.
The third week of June, yeah. It's June 17th is the first trip.
Okay, so if people want in now, right at the beginning, which is such perfect timing with like COVID and wrapping up and vaccines and all of that, and so
and I'll be fully vaccinated. I already have my first dose, so
awesome.
So I just wanted to, this is my sticker, so that's my logo, so that's how you'll know it's us when you see that.
Okay. Good.
I say us because, well, as my little brother pointed out, if corporations can be people, then my business can be a person, and I can say we to refer to me and my business.
As you should. So much of the work that I have done and do with people is around like birthing your sacred contribution as if it is its own entity, energy and love toward it, the same way that you would a human or a pet or a, you know, a partner, right? That it is like a living thing that is evolving as you're evolving. And so, yes, us. That's perfect.
Me and my business, us.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Well, I'll definitely be checking out your website later and put it in the chat. And then if anyone has any comments, you know, message Kori. She's in this group. And, you know, obviously all for contact info will be on the website.
Yeah, and I love questions. I mean, as you can tell, I love talking about my trips, and so barrage me with all kinds of little questions is great. I love to give all the little details and talk how it's gonna work and everything. So yeah.
Good. Well, Kori, thank you so much for being with us. And I say us because also us, right? And so thank you for being here. And everyone check her out. I know there's a couple people on my mind too, where I'm going to give them your information today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. This has been really just really appreciate you having me on. This is really great.
Of course. All right, well, keep us posted.
Great, thank you.
Okay, bye.